I put some Dire Straits on for the viewers. We are
Oh, amazing!
we can start if we are ready.
Yes, yes. Whenever you want to.
Okay.
Oh, one thing I forgot though. I need to host you. So shoot, I always. There's a lot, but I can also do it while we are starting. So.
No worries.
Who is your opponent this Sunday? And in general, will you be keep like every Sunday?
Yes.
There is a
Sunday noon.
Sunday noon, and
It's
this Sunday.
Anna Maya.
Oh, I see. She's a tough opponent, but I think you'll do a good job.
Oh, by the way, because I'm playing music, they can hear us. So let me kill this and. Hi guys.
Hello everyone.
First, a huge shout out to one and only international master Anna Rudolf, the legend herself.
Thank you.
And welcome to another edition of Nikola's Chess with one and only Ada Rudolf. Hi guys. Yeah, please, famous wizard. That's the secret is unfortunately out. You see, our discussion was heard, and I'm afraid the whole chat heard that you don't think that Anna Maya can adopt me. So we have a little bit of a
very
controversy.
big of a secret, yes. As we were discussing with Nikola during the pre-stream music, that I do think that Nikola will do a good job. I don't know if my reasoning was still on audio or not, but I also added later that I think Anna Maya is a really strong player, but because of her playing style and Nikola's playing style, the clash of styles,
Yes.
I think Nikola has a good chance.
All right, thank you. That's very kind of you. Anna Maya is a very strong opponent. For intents and purposes, I think your former colleague Sopiko is the only thing that she would be playing for the Dutch national team in the Olympiad if Sopiko didn't switch federations. So,
Yes.
it's we'll see how it goes. And Anna Maya is a dear friend and a great player, and she's going to prepare. So I'm a little bit scared, I have to admit. So we'll see how that
She
goes.
definitely will prepare, but I really think you will do a good job.
Thank you.
Will do a good job.
All right, a quick shout out to a couple of people, some old friends. Hi, Vasily Morozov. Thank you for the follow. Eo Sandel, Flutter Chess, Raghav, Bihala, Surikata 11, ZZY34, Lutik FC, and Forsaken Mind. Thank you guys for the follow. Welcome all Wholesome Tomatoes. Hi, Bunkenator. It's always good to see you, and all members of the Anna's Wholesome community, of which I'm a proud card-carrying member, as you guys know. So it's very good to see you guys here. All right, so I am yours truly has been a little neglectful streamer for the past week. I'm also a little bit of a Robocop because I'm wearing this contraption that's supposed to help my elbow heal. Somehow I doubt that it's actually achieving its purpose, but there we go, and we'll see how that goes. Anyway, it's good to see you guys.
It's
So,
good to
Anna,
have you back, Nikola, even if
thank you.
you have turned into a cyborg in the meantime, but cyborgs can play really good chess.
Well, if we can figure out a way how to, put stockfish in this cast, it wouldn't be a bad idea. But there we go. Hey, Chess Daily. Hey, James. Thank you. It's always good to see you guys. All right. So my understanding is that today, dead or alive, you're coming with me. That's a RoboCop quote. Thanks, Hedgehog. That's appreciated. Thank you. Anna, do you like RoboCop?
I haven't seen Robocop, unfortunately.
Okay.
I'm not educated enough. Do you like Robocop?
I watched it when it first came out. I think it was in the in the late 1980s, and I kind of liked the show. So, and this cast was inspired by RoboCop, I think. Anyway, all right. So, and I have to say that I was very amazed by that video from David Hasselhoff. It was.
Thank you.
And
Nicholas talking about my latest upload on YouTube. We contacted David Hasselhoff to send us a
yes.
personal video message, and when I say we, it was a message we wanted to ask for myself and the wholesome tomatoes, and he literally says in the video to the
Yes.
wholesome tomatoes. Sorry,
Yes.
Nicola, I cut you there about your thoughts on the video.
I love the video. I think, let me put it this way, I can only hope that I have the same, one can only dream of having the same panache and the same charisma that David has at the age of 70. God, I mean, God, what can I tell you? It's genuinely impressive. So, anyway, and I mean, haha.
Really good.
That's my 1 second David Hasselhoff impersonation.
That was brilliant and so
Yes.
unexpected.
Yes. All right. Hey, thanks, guys. Thank you, Vulcanator, for joining us. Thank you, the Fuchsia. Thank you, Famous Wizard. Yes, I like this. And yeah, Logis, she definitely tries Anna does twist my arm. But I have to say, there is a long line of people who do twist my arm, my wife being first and foremost. So I was overdue for an injury of this kind. So, so I am very eager to find out what do you have prepared for me and for us, for the whole community, Anna. So what do we have? Do we get to guess the players?
You can if you want to.
Okay, I'm
But
gonna need a hint.
sure. Today I thought that since you had your surgery last week, I decided I'm not gonna go full on intimidation master
No.
mode.
Okay.
But I have chosen a former world champion whose playing style I think you are fond of. And
Okay.
we have briefly talked about him earlier
Kasparov.
as well. I'm not sure.
Okay. So not
Kasparov
Kasparov. Okay.
also we talked about, yes.
Okay.
And this particular former world champion is known for his imagination, creativity,
Okay.
and brilliant sacrifices.
Okay. Hey, thank you, Lulagabu77, for your kind words. Hey, Lali, thanks for staying up. So, okay, so okay, that actually narrows the field down fairly. Is it tied?
Yes. We
Okay.
are talking about the eighth
Very
world
good.
champion today, Mikhail Tal. I was looking at his game, a couple of I had in mind as candidates, but I didn't want to choose some of his most famous ones because I'm afraid you know them. I ended up choosing attacking games that are hopefully not that well known, or even if you know some of the positions we will still analyze, obviously the sidelines as well, and just
Okay.
go into the depths of some of the variations.
Yeah, since Anna brought Tal, I have to say that Tal is one of my favorite world champions of all time. I also consider him to be, first, he was one of the top three players for a very, very long time. He was only a world champion for 1 year,
Yeah.
but that mostly happened because he never had luck with his health. In other words, there are so many tournaments from which he had to withdraw because of ill health.
Yeah.
However, he played in so many candidates, semifinals and finals for such a long time, and my understanding is that one of his very last games, he went out of the hospital a month before he passed on to beat Kasparov in a blitz game. So, and so I have a huge soft spot in my heart for Mikhail Tal because he's a great person, he's a great champion, and he should have been a champion for much longer than 1 year. So
I fully agree.
yeah,
I fully agree.
smoking problem, yes, true enough. I actually. One of the reasons, incidentally, I never spoke about this, and I'm sorry not to interrupt. This one of the reasons that my late mother didn't like me play chess in my youth had to do with the fact that in all chess clubs I ever frequented to, there was the amount of smoke, tobacco smoke in those facilities were such that you can literally cut the smoke with a knife. So, but yeah.
No, that's
Sure.
understandable that a caring mom would not want their
No,
child to be in an environment like that.
no. So that was, and that was a legitimate reason. But anyway, those days are behind us, and so who did? I'm looking forward to the Tal game. So did he play somebody famous, or this is?
We could call him famous. Actually, have 3 games selected for today. I think we'll be able to look at least 2 of them
Okay.
because today it will not be going into that much of depths and complexities, but more just admiring the general
Okay.
attacking ideas. So I decided it will not be that much of a torture. But out of the 3 games, yeah, one is kind of like a world championship match.
Okay, that
Which you
narrows
might
it.
know. So I
That
thought,
narrows it down. Tal basically played the world championship matches against Botvinnik, so
yes.
it would need to be Botvinnik. All right, and all right, we'll figure that one out.
Yeah, I think that's the most famous, but you will also know the other names. The second game, well, the one we were gonna start with actually is
Okay.
against Vladimir Simagin,
Oh yes,
and Yefim Geller is the third opponent.
I actually remember Yefim Geller when I was a kid. I never got to play him, but he came to Belgrade when I was 5, and he played in the Serbian Academy of Sciences. And one of the family friends was a vice president of Serbian Academy of Sciences, and he actually got to play Geller, and Geller gave him rook odds and completely destroyed him. He was a category 1 player at that time, which basically means that he wasn't a master, but he was a fairly strong player, and I think he never understood how Geller managed to beat him with the rook odds. But yes, Geller managed to beat him rook odds, and it wasn't even a secret that Russian Grandmaster was basically doing it for odds purposes in order to get some extra cash, to be quite frank.
Oh, interesting story.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. So yeah, anyway, but I actually have some stories to tell about Geller, but let's start with Tyler and Geller. That's like I don't know, that's 2 players with the same style playing against each other. So all right, I can't wait, Anna. Let's go.
Sure.
I'm excited.
So we are starting with the game
I'm
against
so
Simagin.
excited that my arms hurts.
Oh no! Oh no!
I forgot about it. Anyway, let's go.
Oh no!
No,
I'm so
thank you.
sorry. I
Not
should
so,
I
not your
should make
fault.
this boring. I'm gonna
No, no,
try
no,
to
no,
make
no,
this
no, no, no,
boring.
no. Please don't. It's fine. It's perfect. All right. So first game is Style versus Simigan.
Yes, and
Okay.
we are playing with the white pieces most of the game.
Ah, yes. Style variation of Caro-Can. Very good. Very famous. Please clip this and send to Anama. Oh, it's not playing D5. Okay.
Yeah, it could have been, but Simagin went D6,
Okay.
surprisingly.
Okay.
But we will, of course, still go for an aggressive setup
Fine.
as white.
Okay. So,
Are you familiar with any positions like this? It's not common, just if in any case you had something similar. Even the pawn structure for white, the
I
three pawns.
actually really like Vladimir Simagin as a player
Mm-hmm.
because he was one of those players that died fairly young. And he was a very strong player. I think he was the champion, either Moscow or Leningrad champion multiple times. He was very strong and very famous players.
Yeah.
And to this day, one of the very memorable end games is his game against Gideon Barca, in which is basically a knight end game in which he didn't count pound but promoted the pawn. But so what? Um, so what is this? So the computer says this is Pirc. That this is a Pirc without g6, or g6 will be played. Yeah. And looks like that Tal wants to play Austrian attack, but it's hard to play Austrian attack without bishop on g7. So it's an interesting opening.
Yes, yeah, I myself haven't seen it with this exact move order either. As you said, it's not a Pirc, it's like a mix. It could still transpose to a Pirc-like position if black goes for g6,
sure.
bishop g7, but he doesn't. So it's gonna be just a bit of a random one in terms of openings. But this is the first question for white. After knight b d7, we have played 6 moves up to this point, but we'll need to figure out how do we want to develop our pieces, where do we castle, some general ideas of where to place the pieces and what move to play. So Nikola, this is going to be the first thinking moment.
Okay, and just wanna, yes, Lali, I'm always rooting for my Caro caveman. Though I have an admission to make, and this is something for famous to share with Anna. I have a completely new variation of Caro prepared for our Sunday match. So
Ooh.
that I'm not gonna disclose. So and Frank, it's always good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. All right, but going back to Tyler versus Simagin, those two gentlemen are playing a game of poker. They're not really, they're not disclosing their cards. Simagin can castle either long or short, and they're both playing very flexibly, depending on what the other would play. And the order, Austrian attack is useless if black castles long. And the question mark here is, who is castling where, and black first and foremost, and what is black doing with that bishop on f8? And
good question.
Yeah, Lali, exactly. The rook b1, and the queen of b6 is an interesting move. Normally, if this were a modern, it would be on c7 and it would push b5, and then the assumption is that white would end up long. So anyway, and I'm not familiar with this game, at least it doesn't ring a bell, so that's a good sign.
I'm glad. I'm worried about the bot winning game in general, but yeah, I was thinking this and the Geller game, hopefully you haven't seen. Hopefully.
Okay.
So let's think of this as if you had to play this position with the white pieces and you just need to develop your pieces. So let's come up with a piece placement and some general ideas on how you would proceed in this position.
Well, I think I would continue to hold my... I can force the exchange of that light square the bishop for the knight on f3 because that bishop is otherwise going to get captured. So that's number one consideration. Number two consideration, I think castling white gets prepared to castle short in this position. If this really transposes into Pirc, this is going to be an Austrian attack type of formation. But my educated guess is that Simagin played this. He is not going to transpose this into Pirc. He has a couple of misplaced pieces if this were Pirc. Hey, Sepper, it's good to see you. Hey, Daniel, thank you, my friend. It's good to see you again. Like normally in Pirc or modern, you would play queen c7, then b5, and and start attacking on the queen side. On the I can't believe I'm saying this if I'm here in Tal's position. I'm not terribly worried about that queen b2 because, bishop d2, queen b2, rook b1, rook b7, and I think white is better in that situation by a fairly significant margin. All right, so I can also force to take on f3, which might be beneficial. If I'm asking what Tal played, I don't see Tal playing anything crazy as of yet. I don't see anything there. I mean, playing knight f4 to chase the queen appears a little bit premature. Developing the, develop bishop on d2, you can play rook b1, you can castle. I think castle is probably the most flexible move in this position. So, anyway.
Yeah, he did go for castling a move later, because first he played something rather concrete. But I think it's similar in the sense that I don't really... Oh, well, actually, no. Depends on if black would prevent it if we don't play that immediately. So castling immediately is one of the main options, and the other is what he played.
Okay.
What do you think now that if I'm mentioning that maybe it's not exactly the same, the move order?
He could have played h3 and clarified the bishop situation.
Yeah, so one concrete line would be h3.
Yeah, a concrete
what
line
else?
with h3, and another concrete line would be, I think is e5 a legitimate option? It is. That would be a very aggressive move because you can take with the f pawn, open the f file, castle, and then start generating some threats. So ellipse 0934 b3 is an option, but frankly that pawn is poisonous. If black takes this pawn, when rook comes to b1, it will take on b7, and then black king is in big trouble. So what I would play in this position? Okay. I mean, he can even play knight g5 and go all caveman on Simagin. The problem with that move is that then pawn on d4. You can. All right. So let me draw some arrows.
Sure. Yeah. Let me get
Option
rid of the
one
ones
is,
I drew. Oh, sorry. I wanted to get rid of those.
No
Yeah.
1, 2, and we kind of said he didn't play the castle. 3. I mean, if I'm playing a bullet game, I'll just probably not rush with knight g5. I would probably play e5 or h3. There is also an option. I mean, d5 is not really, doesn't appear to be a good move. Hey, Patty Fist 92, it's very good to see you. Fenbargold is saying that b2 near to e5. Yeah, in other words, the time is almost ripe here for a strategic plan of hitting the black king.
Hmm.
And to do that, I think it's a question mark is this bishop or this knight more useful piece?
Yeah.
Hey, Shreyas, 23893. Good to see you. Thank you, my friend. Maybe queen d3. If e5, if I want to keep the bishop, then e5 is the good move. Alternatively, I can play knight g5 or I can play h3. None of these moves exclude one another in
Hmm.
many ways, but I think the
True.
most aggressive move here, sorry, Anna, is e5.
Yes. Yeah. I think you came to the right conclusion.
Yeah,
Because you were saying that you can combine many of these, but probably he decided to go for e5 instantly, instead of castling, or h3. H3 is also a possibility if you want to get the bishop immediately. But the one thing that black could do as a response to castle kingside is to push e5.
yeah,
So if we want to go for that pawn advance, then the right move order, as you said correctly, is e5 here, and then you can castle. You said that if black takes, f takes, and the f file opens up, that's where we're gonna be castling. So the rook will be on an open file, semi-open file. That's really good for white to start on move 8, basically, to have already a semi-open file and pressure against the f7 pawn. So
yeah.
taking on e5 is not really recommendable for black. Although I do see in the chat a couple of you saying that it looks scary if black will be able to take the pawn on e5, because it's true that when we castle, there's a pin over the a7 g1 diagonal. Would that be something that concerns you, Nikola?
It's a consideration, but I don't think that's a very significant threat. I think
Mhm.
White has a space advantage and piece development and
Mhm.
activity advantage. I'm the last person to criticize Vladimir Simagin, who incidentally Fan Bingle was
Hmm.
he tile played against Vladimir Simagin, a very strong Russian grandmaster. And a very original player. I mean, playing this against Tal is inviting trouble.
True. Very true.
Yeah, so and I would play this position as white very 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 happily.
I did not expect any other answer
Yeah.
than that. Would you calculate lines though where black can win the pawn? So I think the suggestion in the chat was to reach a position where you would take on e5 and then on f3 to win the pawn on e5. Would you consider lines like that? What would be your calculation like?
So I'm switching to playing this as black. I,
Yes.
okay, so the way to take it, obviously the threat here is to take on f3, takes on f3, takes on e5, then takes on e5 again
Hmm.
because of this pin.
Yes.
uh, the problem here is that this doesn't really reflect the real issue of this position, and this position is, this pawn is in trouble, this king is in danger. If I'm playing as black, I'm desperately trying to get out from the f file. I'm maybe trying to castle as quickly as I possibly can,
Hmm.
because this king is going to be in the open everywhere, and yes, as Simply Swindling mentioned, the pin is simply resolved by playing king h1 at some point. So I wouldn't even go for that pawn, to be honest, Anna, if I were black. I would just try to castle and save
Hmm.
save save myself while I still can.
I think your reasoning is totally understandable. Would you be able to play as some of the moves that that could be an example line of why black shouldn't really be going after pawns while still being undeveloped. So let's try to create a line where black does win the pawn.
Okay. Um, and very frankly, one reason to take on e5 is, and this is a very quintessential anti-Caro option, it's that, especially in tile variation, is play e6 whenever you can.
Mm-hmm.
And playing an
Yes.
e6 basically makes this bishop very locked in, opens this diagonal, and so on and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. All right, so I'm here at white, and I have just castled, right? So if black decides to capture the pawn, right,
Mm-hmm.
and then takes. Okay. Well, what is it that I can do here? I can have a bishop on f3. First, I can re-grab the pawn immediately because this knight is attacked twice.
Mm-hmm.
So I can take on d5 and take on d5. And it's pretty unpleasant very quickly. Right, and then I can put the king on f3, and this diagonal is there, and that queen is going to be very strong very quickly. I can play bishop e3, get this queen off the b6, then play rook b1 if black takes on b2, and I'm pretty sure I'm winning in that position.
Sure, let's show it on the board too, the line that you calculated, because it
Okay.
sounds very promising.
Right. I'm sorry, I'm not playing this right. So first this. And now here is a good question mark. What do I take this with? And what do I do? I can... All right, so I can take... Whether bishop on d5 or knight is better on d5 is an interesting question. But here, this actually wins the piece, right? Or okay, so the question for black here is, how do you maintain the pin with this queen that needs to run away? And the question here is, well, play queen b5, and that would be a very short game. Haha.
Yes. The Bottas Gambit and the haha are both very much appreciated.
But for example, let me just, what is the best option here for black? And it's already a little bit troublesome here, right? Obviously, how do we save the bloody knight? That's the real question here. Can we save the knight?
Well, you'll answer your own question, Nikola.
Okay.
It's gonna be the quote of the year.
Haha.
And poor viewers of yours who haven't seen the video will be like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
Haha, David Hasselhoff 2020.
Hey, Hoff Believer, thank you for the subscription.
Oh, hopefully we get to see
Yeah,
you now that we mentioned the Hoff.
Well, we can also post the link for the one and only Hoff video in there. Yeah.
Thank you.
But let me put it this way. I don't want to. This is pretty crashing position for white.
It is. Can black take the pawn in a way that you will not have the time to take on d5? So can black do it with a different move order?
All right. So good question. Okay. The problem, I might be blind or I may be biased for white's position. but I don't see it. Takes on e5, then it falls to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so we don't want to do that. So I think we have to take. Oops, sorry. I think we have to take on f3 with the bishop first if we're going pawn grabbing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, and then obviously this, and well, we can interject this move.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and then then take the pawn, which is better. Huh.
How would you evaluate this position by intuition first and then looking at it in more depth? Would you play this with white if you were to choose this pawn sacrifice of giving up the e5 pawn?
I would love to play this position as white. The initiative is there. The king has nowhere to go. The rook has the open file. If when this, it's a nice position for white.
Mm-hmm.
It's not immediately losing for black the way the other one was, but it's a very uncomfortable. It's a very uncomfortable position for black. These pieces are ornaments, and if we can put the question here is what is the best move here for white in this position. You want to keep the bishop pair, but there's so many threats. So let me think for a second. Let's just even brute force something along the lines of this and this. The question of f7, then bishop goes to a3, this bringing both rooks here. How do we defend the f7 pawn? I would very happily play this position as white, Anna.
I would have thought so. What would be your move then? King h1 is your main option, or do you consider other moves as well just as much?
Okay, let's have some fun. This is style game, right? Can we play rook b1?
Whoa. What's the idea?
Well, rook b1, if you take on b1, I take on e5. You cannot castle. And I have a very strong attack. And I'm not saying I'm making the move. I'm just considering the move. And if you take on f3, I take on f3. I'm threatening to take on f7. And as you know, I play caveman Caro-Kann, in which sacrificing a rook is one of the topics. So
yes.
Okay, that might be pushing it.
I thought it's a really interesting idea. May not be necessary to give up the rook or an exchange, but it's interesting how you thought of it.
Yeah, I mean, I can just. The question here is, do I want to give this? I can just play bishop e3 and basically eliminate the pin, and then there is a question mark. What do you do with this knight?
Yeah.
If you take queen f3, there is a nasty threat on f7. There is a nasty threat to play rook b1. I'm pretty sure this is a position that's very close to winning for white.
So bishop e3.
Yeah.
You threaten to take the knight.
Yes.
And you don't mind a trade on f3.
No.
Okay.
And
yeah. I think that's one of the main options, as you said, because then f7 is hanging. Black has to play f6, and all the pieces of black are still on the back rank except for the queen.
Yeah, and I threaten to play rook b1, which if black allows me to play, it's basically a crashing move.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, that's one of the options. As well as if you want to keep the bishop, where would you place it if you were to to keep the light square bishop. So you can play king h1 or bishop e3 to force the trade and threaten on f7, or you can decide to keep it and then play bishop e3 or king h1. In that case, where do you think the bishop would be okay? Which square?
Well, the best. I mean, I can play bishop e2, but that looks passive and it closes the. I would probably play bishop e4.
Yeah, bishop e4 if you want to keep
Yeah.
the bishop. Very good. Yes. Yeah, both options look very promising, whether you give up the bishop or not. But as you said, this one pawn white has so much lead in the development and also having the initiative here. Why the black king is in the middle of the board or the black piece is on the back rank, this is more than worth the e5 pawn.
Okay.
So good job.
And my dear friend Sepper was asking, can black just ignore it? Yes, black can just ignore it, but then, you follow up with a threat of rook b1. And then where is that queen going? So, it obviously can't go anywhere and maintain the pin. Unless black wants to play a6 and queen a7, which doesn't look promising. So, the only active piece in black's position is knight on e5. So that's the idea.
Yeah.
And yes, Luigi, your job is to raise ruckus. Yes. So thanks, Sepper. Thank you, my dear friend. It's always good to see you here. Okay, but obviously this wasn't played, right, Anna?
It wasn't. But it had to be considered because you are basically offering that pawn if you castle kingside, and that's what Tal played. So this could have been the game because it is depending on black now whether black wants to take on f3, on c3, and on e5. The pawn is there. The pawn is offered. It's a very good job.
Okay.
Black took on c3, so this could still transpose to the line that we looked at. And then after b takes c3, eventually Simagin decided that he needs to develop his pieces instead of going for that pawn on e5.
Okay.
What do we do now? So black did not want the free pawn that we were giving away.
Okay.
How do we continue?
Okay. Well, taking on e5 is to our advantage, so we don't necessarily care. They're immediate options here. I don't think we necessarily care about this pawn still, right, Anna? So I can play something like bishop a3 and kind of maintain the pressure on this diagonal.
Yeah.
I can go into aggressive mode and play knight g5, and I can even play h3. I'm not saying that might be too slow, but to kind of clarify the situation of this bishop. And I think I don't see anything else unless I'm missing something obvious, Anna.
I think you have named the main options. I think you have already listed everything. What would be the next step once you have your candidate moves? How would you proceed in checking them? What would be the lines that you're looking at?
I think bishop a3 maintains the initiative, makes rook b1 into a threat, and it's a kind of a natural move in this position. So if I am playing this game, I'm probably playing bishop a3. Yes, there is an option here to play something annoying along the lines of queen a5. But then there is also a question mark what to do with the pawn on d6, because technically, if this pawn is left undefended, we can actually take it, exchange the bishops, and then play knight e5, at which point that knight is pretty strong, and we're in actually a good position. So, okay. So bishop a3.
Okay, that's your final call.
Bishop that's A3. My final. Yes.
Okay.
And that wasn't played in the game.
I'm gonna just test you and see if I can just grab the pawn. But you're saying that you're not afraid of anything like this. I'm just hoping that by the trade of these bishops included on top of the the e5 pawn that I'm trying to get. I hope that this extra exchange of bishops will help me in defending my position.
Okay, so you're asking me what move I'm making here. I have a bishop that's hanging, so I probably
Yes.
need to take on f8.
All right. So I can decide to take back with the king, the rook, or knight. But if I want to take on e5, I will need the knight to attack the e5 pawn. Um. Oh well. None of them are very appealing, but I'm gonna take with the rook to try to. I don't know what will I do. I can still castle queenside, but yeah, let's see this. I'm just trying to come up with something.
Okay, so what am I doing here? Okay, so you took. So what are my options? If I take on e5, you take on e5. I can. What do I do? Or I can be. All right, so let me think for a second. Obviously, I can allow you to take on e5, at which point I can play bishop h5, check, question that. Getting rid of all these light pieces actually serves to black's advantage a little bit, which needs to be said. I can take, I can push.
Mm-hmm.
I can play king h1. I can play something like bishop h5 to provoke g6 and then play on these weak black squares. I have another move which I can play rook b1 now and then not worry about that pin, which might actually be the best move in the position. And yeah, Luigi is saying 1587 is saying that this position requires patience, and I think he is exactly right. But I think natural move is to just play rook b1 and then take on e5, and then you're not sacrificing the pawns. I still have this open file. I still have this bishop, which is pretty strong. I can double heavy artillery on this file. I can do B or F file. I like this position.
Yeah, rook b1 is a very important intermediate move, because if you were to give up the pawn here, uh, for sure white has compensation, but it's not exactly the same that we wanted.
No.
So we had to trade the dark squared bishops. That rook is protecting the f7 square. This is not as clear of a we have an advantage as white. We should have compensation, but I'm not sure it's enough for giving us an attacking better position with the pawn down, especially since black could still castle queenside. So very good that you spotted that you don't have to take back immediately. So we take on f8, and then after f takes instead of f takes e5, sorry, here
Rook b1.
rook to b1, a very important intermediate move. And doesn't matter where the queen goes, you'll take back next move. There's just equal material on the board with black still struggling to finish development, because with the rook on the b file castling into that semi-open file is another brave move to play if black wants to, if black dares to.
Okay.
So really good. Very good job.
And of course this wasn't played.
This wasn't. As well as the adoption was never a case. Amadeus, how do you even consider that it would happen?
Anna, I did get adopted by Aman, and very honestly, I did, Chiyu came pretty close to actually having the second adoption attempt being successful. So, and let's be frank. If I asked Anna Muzichuk to play the same match, I would obviously get adopted. So, which I honestly may even do for because I don't want there to be a perception that I was never adopted by the woman chess player. It's just a matter of finding the right opponent. So
Yeah,
so
I agree. There are so many strong
sure,
streamers out there that are still yet to take on the challenge, but you are also getting stronger and stronger in each and every match. So,
that is true.
and Man took you still at the early stage of your matches. He was lucky to do so, and he was worse in couple of the games, so he
No, I
shouldn't have
had
adopted
no,
you.
no. I had more than one position in that game. It's that's fine, but that's all part of the matches, and the purpose of it is to, you know, play well and improve. So that's fine. And I honestly do not. I obviously prefer not to get adopted, but I don't mind. And I think Anna Maya is so. Uh, Confident that she will adopt me, that she even has a very nice emote that it's let me see if I can, yeah, there it is. I'll post it in chat. Oops.
She has an adoption emote already.
She
I'm
has
not
adopted
seeing it
Nikola,
just
a
yet.
mate. Yeah, it's a very cute baby with
What?
mine. Yeah, so it's kind of cute.
It's
Anyway,
really cute, but it's not gonna happen.
well, thank you, Anna. That's very kind of you. But it also needs to be said that you are slightly biased in my favor, I would say.
Why would I be biased, Nicola?
I wonder why. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
No, but I really don't think that emote. Maybe if there's like a no sign and the adoption. So like if you combine that emote with another one that it did not happen,
Yeah,
then it can be used. But
that's
as
fine.
it is, it's very cute. I appreciate the gesture, but it's not gonna happen.
Yeah. And thank you, Lips. That's very greatly appreciated. Aman is a strong grandmaster. And, let me just say this. Um, it's amazing how much there is a strength difference between somebody who is 2850 like Carlsen or Jan Nepomniachtchi and so on, and somebody who is 2600 or
Yeah.
2650, and somebody who is 2650, and somebody who, in other words, I think for every true at the top level, at every 20, 200 ELO difference, there is a legitimate adoption chance. So it's it's worth considering. Anyway, thank you. Okay, so Rook B1 is obviously a key move here. I presume the
Yes.
tile
Yeah.
didn't play Bishop A3. Oh, okay, here, yes. I presume
Yeah. This
Tal
is the
played
line we looked
something
at.
else. Yeah, I'm
He
sorry,
did.
and I
He did.
keep
No,
interrupting you
no, no, no.
today.
It's
My
it's very
apologies.
difficult with Zoom calls. I think it happens always in chess commentary as well, and it's not because anyone wants to interrupt anybody. I also interrupt others because it's so difficult. You guys would not believe how difficult it is to not interrupt anyone when the body language is missing, because obviously we are looking at the board and we are only connected through
Yeah,
a Zoom call. So
sure.
that's why it happens constantly in chess coverage as well. And people always in the chat are like, oh, this or that person was so rude. And I think just try to do a couple of hour coverage, not seeing the person you're talking to or people you're talking to, because there can be more streamers or broadcasters on the line, and it's extremely difficult to not bump into each other's lines. And there's also a bit of a lag, I think, sometimes on the calls. So it's like
Agreed.
no body language, lag, just try not to.
Thank you, Anna. That's very nice of you. All right. So what did Tal play here? I presume he didn't play Bishop A3, but find something else. Knight to G5.
Bishop a3. Yeah, Bishop a3 was your option, and it's a good one. So Bishop a3 is a good
Okay.
attacking way of continuing, similar to a Tal style. But yes, you named the other move already. That was another candidate move of yours, knight to g5. Why do you think he would prefer knight g5? What is it that knight g5 achieves?
Well, it removes that Bishop F5 defender, threatens some rather nasty ideas along the lines of knight on G5 can be jump here when this bishop get exchanged, the queen H5, F5, opening files. it's the f7 position in black, f7 in black's position is very difficult to defend in this, and this bishop really, where exactly is it going? To e7, okay, but that's it. It does, these files are blocked. There is a pawn preventing it here, so yeah. I have to give Simone credit.
That's all exactly how Tal must have been thinking about that f7 pawn and just giving up the knight for it. Because that's a weak spot in black's camp. And knight g5 is a forcing move. We are threatening to do something about the g4 bishop. So black has to react, either trade on e2 or move the bishop away. But black is already lacking development, so he cannot just consider retreating moves like bishop f5. Of course, the bishop takes e2 is the most straightforward, but after queen takes e2, now, as you said, this knight is looking at the f7 pawn, so black is considering this, that Tal wanted to sacrifice the knight on f7. How would you treat this position as black, and what can you do about that sacrifice?
Ouch.
Question to chat as well. Everyone here, we are working together, right?
Yeah. All right. So this is more a question for somebody like Korchnoi who would like to defend this. Okay. So here are a couple of threats. The threat one is push f5, bring the knight to e4, bring the queen to h5, open up the f file, play bishop a3.
Yeah.
That's a lot of threats.
Yes.
I cannot, if I'm black, I cannot castle, because obviously then if this is the base of my pawn chain. If I give it, then this is weak, and I'm immediately in trouble. Hey, Ulon, thank you gifting to Jay Cooper a sub. That's very greatly appreciated from you, friend. Thank you. So, Anna, I need to prevent this file from being opened if I'm black. And I need to develop some counterplay somewhere. Oh, thank you, Ulan, for gifting us up to Grandmaster. All right, so here's the question. Is knight f7 a viable move for white? Immediately, meaning after something like bishop e7.
Yeah, good question.
Okay. Honestly, what I would probably play is, what's the best way for me to defend f7? I can bite the bullet and take the pawn. Not meaning takes. Well, I can't take because it takes with e5. But
yeah,
I can take mostly to liberate myself from this, right? So I would but then I have opened the f file, and then there is immediate threat to take on f7, which I can't allow. I would probably evaluate bishop e7. Let's get rid of this exchange because it doesn't work. So the question here is, do I have time to play bishop e7 and rook f8 and defend, hold on for dear life? Another option is to play g6. The advantage of g6 is that it allows me to put bishop on g7 and maybe rook f8, and I hope to survive. It also eliminates all these queen h5 threats. Um, because there are immediate ugly threats like takes on e6, push f5, question here which I need to prevent. And this is all right. I'm black. I'm playing g6.
Okay.
And praying.
So now turning the tables. Black plays g6. Let's take a look at that position. You've got the white pieces here. What would be your thinking here? How can white proceed?
Well, one advantage of me, I don't want to insert this, but I can play bishop a3, right? And immediately threaten this with some plan along the lines of knight e4 and knight d6. And once knight on d6, it's curtains. I probably need to evaluate some sort of a position, some f5 threats, because if it takes with an f, then queen h5 is pretty ugly.
Yeah.
And then you have an option on take with an e file, and then you can push e6, which is also very ugly very quickly. So if I'm playing this, I'll probably just, there is no need not to reinforce the position with bishop a3. And that would be a very legitimate move. If that's judged to be slow, it's really the choice between bishop a3 and pushing f5.
If it was your game, which one do you think you would go for if you have some time? Let's say it's not a bullet or blitz with very short.
If it's a bullet, I'll just play safe and play bishop a3.
Yeah, and if it was a game with more time to think, which one do you think you would like to go for?
This f5 is very appealing.
So what's your calculation for f5?
Okay, so f5 you can't take. First, there is an option you can take with this pawn, and then we exchange bishops. If bishop a3, but let's focus on f5 for a second. So if I'm playing f5, black can take on e5, black can take with e pawn, and we just eliminate the g pawn. I don't think how black can defend against all of these after queen h5, and then threats on f7 are basically just crushing. So option one, take on e5 or take on f5. If you take on e5, I'm taking on e6.
Yes.
And then you are in immediate trouble because I have the open f file. I have place to put the knight. I'm threatening this knight here, and I think it's probably safe to assume that there is a mate there somewhere. So after f5, if we take with this, then we are actually it's almost the same position because we're going to just push f6, e6, and then it's frankly curtains, Anna.
After e takes f5, e6, or do you have other options too, or just e6 is the one you consider?
I like e6. I might be missing something. Wouldn't be the first time.
Just asking if that's the only straightforward option there, or are there others?
All right, so basically f5 takes e6, right? Or there are other options. Oh, I can take with a check. That actually probably wins immediately because then I can take on f7, take the rook, and so on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you show that on the board as well, just in case,
sure.
For the viewers to catch up with your thought process there? So f5 is a really appealing pawn sacrifice. Black cannot take with the e pawn because...
And it's curtains. If it takes with the other pawn, then this is as ugly, if not. I mean, you know, I don't see any defense here. How are you going to defend f7?
I think you're right.
Okay.
As much as they are
And
looking at it, there's no way to defend f7. So f5 basically uh, cannot be taken. But if black cannot take it, then black is in trouble because that pawn on f5 is already a really painful one, threatening to take on e6, opening up the f file, and the black king can't really escape anywhere because in case of castle queenside, what's happening in case of castle queenside?
in this position,
Yeah, if black tried to castle at any point, yeah, the f7 pawn is gone, and not just the pawn, but it's a fork.
and very
Yeah.
honestly, I don't even need to take the rook. I can take, in the next
True.
move, take on e6, and it's.
Yeah.
I'll give me this position any day of the week. Okay, so basically, f5 immediately wins.
I think so. I don't see a move. Black can't take it, but if black cannot take it, what can he do? Let's let's try to develop maybe the bishop, but everything looks desperate. No, the e6 pawn is hanging. It's all desperate. I was just thinking whether I can try to eliminate the knight, but everything.
Oh,
I think this is a hopeless position, and it's only move 12 for black. This position.
yeah, I can even take on f7. I can take on e6 with a pawn. Yeah.
Yeah, everything is just really bad.
I mean, I can. This wins a piece, right?
Yeah, black doesn't have the time to take on g5, but if black cannot take on g5, then even taking back on e6, knight takes e6, white is material up and attacking.
Yes, Van Feingold. Van Feingold is basically saying that if black plays h6 instead of g6, then knight f7, king f7, f5 look destructive. It's yeah.
Well,
So
we may or may not see that line in the game.
so basically, g6 doesn't really prevent anything.
No, but it was a good attempt. At least you are controlling the f5 square, because the line that Fenbine God said in the chat does not prevent it. Oh shoot, I was trying to go back to. Oh man, this is why I should promote lines. Wait a second. Okay, here. Okay, g6. Yeah, we are in the right one. So g6 didn't happen in the game, but instead h6 happened, which was mentioned. Let's before we look at that though, let's just compare it to bishop e7. As you said, that's got to be one of the main candidate moves for black.
Okay. All right. So okay. We can obviously again push to f5.
Uh-huh.
This is style after all, so we can even take on f7 first
Yes.
and then push f5. Oh no, Fenbeingold, please. This is actually not only doesn't mess up the lesson. The chat is highly encouraged to participate and put lines on. So please don't
Yes.
hesitate. It's actually not only okay, it's actually encouraged. So thank you. So I mean, we're suffering here from excess of good options. So I'll take on. Thank you, Leah Sponsor. Thank you. I do need to hydrate. So there we go.
Good idea too.
Okay, so I mean, we can play f5, which is a reasonably safe move. Black cannot really castle long because there would be a fork on f7. And I feel bad for Simogen in this position, to be honest, Anna. This is not a good position.
Move 11 now. Just
Yeah.
to recall the number of moves they have played so far.
So I think just take on f7 and push f5, and that it's a crushing position, and
It
the
is.
yeah. So
Let's show that variation and then calculate afterwards. So knight takes f7.
Lisbon's I have never played a FIDE rated game. I don't have a title. I have a USCF rating based on three games, rated games that I
Mm.
played, and they had me started as unrated beginner at 800, and my FIDE official rating is, I think, something like 1600. My realistic strength is probably somewhere between 1900 and 2000 USCF, and I'm hoping to improve on it. So, and we'll get there. So, the question here is, what are we doing here? You know what? This is style. Let's just play. It's our move, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, we don't need to force the position. The thing here is there is one danger. The danger is if we push f5, he's gonna take on g5. Oh yeah, but if I take on g5, he can't escape
Mm-hmm.
with a king because he can't castle. It's just so pretty to play something like this.
It is. So what would be the line, as you already
I'll
mentioned?
just do
King
this.
takes, king takes.
All right, king takes and f5. Right, and yeah, and what do you do here if you're black?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
A really good question. Not easy to continue here as black, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna take this one and hope for the best.
Okay. So what do we do here is I mean there is a surplus of decent moves here. I can take here, queen g4, and then we go. Yeah, that might be actually the best line. All right, so and then after your, depending when the bishop goes, there is a bishop a3, and then I can do a quiet move, play it, and bring the other rook up. Or I can play queen h5, which is actually crushing immediately. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so how would be the line with queen h5? Where can black go?
Good question. This probably loses instantaneously.
Because of?
Because there is a double check here, and then where does the poor king go? Right.
Ooh.
Okay. That's a tad biased. Hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't want to play this as I can. What can I play here? I can be neat and play this.
Mhm. That looks quite decisive. G7.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure queen h5 is a winning move.
Yeah, and if instead of g6, black plays king to g8
Here?
instead of g6, so queen h5 check,
Oh,
king g8.
okay. Yeah.
So the knight is hanging and queen f7 is mate. Knight f6 does not prevent it. That is, I should come up with something else to try to survive. G6, I'm guessing as a principle, that this is the only move that remains as an option. I'm gonna play g6 and pray.
Okay. All right. So g6.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what do we do here? Um, I mean, we can play this, and now what? In the immediate threat is rook f7, and then there is also option to play a little deflection here.
Okay, so my knight is hanging and rook f7 is a threat, therefore this
Yeah,
move
you
I
have
think
to
has to
play
be played.
this. Um, okay. So what do we do here? And this is where actually I tend to get into trouble
Hmm.
because I don't see a direct mate here.
That may not be.
But so let's see. Thinking aloud, I can. What can I do here? I can play this. And then if you take, I take the knight. There is
Mm-hmm.
this interesting jump on g4, which may or may not be the threat. I can also play a quiet move, queen h1, at which point I'm threatening to take this.
Yeah.
I can also play bishop g5, which is the most straightforward move. And I would be very hard pressed to assume that black wouldn't, that white is not winning in this position.
I think that's a fair point that there are so many threats, and the rook on h8 is unlikely to be helping the cause
No.
here. So even though black has an extra piece because of this really terrible piece coordination and having pieces like a rook stuck on h8 while the king is under attack, this should still be a very strong attack for white. Interestingly, though, in the position after g6, um, I still need to think for myself too why, but the engine, instead of queen to h6, which seems to be the most logical,
Mm-hmm.
the engine argues that the best square for the queen is. Can you guess, Nikola?
Yes, queen h3.
Yes. So why? Why is it? Very good. But now let's think why. Why this is worse than this? Why is the queen ideal on h3 and not on h6?
I think
Question.
engine is calculating jumps here to move the
Mm,
queen away.
yeah.
And I think the engine plan in this position is to um, actually good question. What would be the engine plan in this position?
Yeah,
Maybe
let's see knight f6 just like in the other line. So
yeah, there is
comparing the two.
yeah, you see the bishop on e3 is then defended. But it's defended on
Uh-huh.
h6 too.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and as Lali is saying here is there is no bishop f8 tempo move
Mm-hmm.
with a bishop. And, I think the plan here is to push this bishop to e3 or even on h6. And the queen is actually surprisingly strong in this place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you figured it out. There's no knight g4 jumps. Bishop f8 is also mentioned in the chat by Lali. It it's quite interesting, but yeah, the queen is helping more overall on h3. Also by leaving the h6 square free for the bishop in case there's one line that I was just looking at if knight f6, bishop g5, bishop e3 or bishop g5, rook f8. You can follow up with bishop h6 if you want, or actually in this position,
I
Yeah,
can
I was
play
thinking.
I can play rook b1 and then take on e5.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably even stronger. Yeah, no, totally. That makes a lot of sense. And as you said, there's never a knight g4 jump where the queen is hanging, and we could be in some kind of a tactical motif with the bishop on
Yeah.
g5 too in the air. So really good. Yeah, this is the most straightforward. Well done, well done. This position, it didn't happen because bishop e7 was not played, but it had to be considered because bishop e7 is such a natural move to
Mm-hmm.
develop, to try to castle, try to capture the knight, of course, first and foremost. But knight takes f7 would have been really strong, and then f5. That is the case. Another line, but of course, queen h5 is extremely strong. Another line that I'm sure that you were considering too, as that well, you actually said taking there and queen g4. You can also give the check from c4. So all these lines are extremely promising for white. I was gonna show one line here because I was playing around in these lines when I was analyzing this earlier, and I was
And
looking at this
bishop
trying to
a3 is
yeah, I was trying to survive here as black, so I was making all sorts of survival attempts with c5, and I was just looking at this like, okay, I don't see the mate for white, but this just has to be decisive advantage. It just is. Even if I think these are the positions in which you can choose to go for it by intuition, because it just there has to be something. And I'm sure that
yeah.
you would go for it, Nicola. This is your type of position.
Yes. Yeah. No, this is yeah. What possessed my dear friend Vladimir Simagin to go into this position with Talia? I mean,
Very good question. Uh,
okay.
I will just ask you here. D takes, knight takes. What would you consider here as a follow up for white?
I mean,
Because we declared this as decisive advantage for white, but we should still make a couple of moves. How would you continue here?
well, we can play rook d1, and
Hmm.
that's immediately unpleasant. Uh, let me see. Um, Honestly, I can even play king h1 in this position.
True. True.
So that's one candidate move. Another candidate move is to give a check with either of the rooks. Actually, probably with this rook. I
Hmm.
can also. I mean, first, this knight cannot go anywhere because it's pinned, so this check is not an option. So I can play rook b1
Hmm.
and ask that queen where it's going, and that then there is no pin because so um, so if you're asking me what I'm moving here, I am. There is no shortage of good moves in this position. Um,
Which one of the many good moves would you choose? You are right. There are many great ones.
well, let's play. Let's play one of the rooks on d1, for example. We can play this, and then where are you going? You have, you can go here,
Hmm.
and then, which is probably actually the best move. We can even play rook f7.
Hmm.
We need to watch for this open check, but the knight is pinned again.
Hmm.
And then there is a threat to actually take on c5, and I'm not sure how you can defend.
Yeah,
So,
good point. That after the pin through the
so
seventh rank.
yeah, so I'll play this, this, and this, and that's
Yeah, I guess my only chance is to just try to hide the king and get out of the pin. At least temporarily, I'm not losing material.
yeah. Um, Am I afraid of that discovered check terribly? Not really. I'm just gonna take, and then you can give me a check here. But then there's some nastiness on F2. So instead of taking, um,
Can you show that line? Then why
yeah,
you are not taking on E7?
yeah, this is annoying, right? And there is, then I'm getting myself smothered mated.
Yes. So we still need to be careful.
And I'm just gonna show this for everybody in
Nice.
chat. So we still need to be a little bit careful, but oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Now I did. Where? Okay.
Oh yeah, sorry, that's my bad because
No,
of
it's
not
not your bad.
promoting.
All right. I managed to.
Let me help you. Knight G5
Yeah.
takes,
Okay.
takes, and now bishop E7. It's a sideline
Yeah.
here. F5, D takes, and then
Thank you, Anna.
another sideline here. Then this. Black trying to survive. And this position.
Okay. So what are we playing in this position? Well, we can actually even play King H1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all the threats kind of remain. And is there anything better? Yeah, I think this King H1 will suffice in this position.
Yeah, that's a very calm and cool move. Just stepping out of the diagonal of the discovered checks, saying that yeah, black is a piece up, but the bishop on e7 is hanging. The knight on c5 is depending on the bishop.
Yeah.
And the black king is still in pretty much the same amount of danger. It's funny how in other lines we had the king on g8 and the rook stuck on h8, and now black mirrored it.
Yes.
It's now king on b8, rook stuck on a8, but it's still a useless piece.
Okay. Yeah,
Pretty
and
good,
Lali's
yeah.
saying that instead of rook f7, I think in this position,
instead of rook d1, rook
d5.
f7.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, okay, rook d5. Sorry, I
That's even
misunderstood.
better.
Yeah.
Yes, Lali. That's good. Good move. That's. Well, we still need to worry about this jump a little bit, but we cannot because it's
For
pinned.
now, it's
it's
pinned.
winning. Yeah, that's a better move. Exactly. Thank you, Lali. That's a crushing move.
I just wonder. I wonder if I can survive somehow. Let me think for a moment.
Okay.
I mean, it looks terrible. Of course. It looks really bad. I'm just thinking that if we trade everything, I'm gonna be at least in an endgame, or will I not make it to an endgame? So I'm trying to think whether one way or the other, if I can trade the rooks while you take on c5. Well, maybe I should bring the other rook though, because if you will be giving me a check on c5, I want to hide my king. So I want to try to trade the rooks on the f5, hide the king on b8, and say that in a heavy piece endgame, it's equal pawns, and my king will be okay, hopefully.
Yeah, but I can just play something like this, and then I have a threat on this 7.
Yeah, so you don't let me trade.
I won't let you trade.
I see.
and I keep the attack going.
Yeah, I guess I should still try to hide the king, so at least the rook move served for rearranging my pieces on the back rank.
Okay. I, I mean, we can play this out, but this rook configuration, something along the lines of takes, takes, and takes.
Yeah,
The,
I'm just hoping though that once you take with the rook, so you will either end up in an end game, in a rook end game, where black survived the worst and now actually has better pawn structure, or if you take with the rook, my thinking was that then this is a pin, so then I can swap to the c file and just
sure.
try to attack that rook. So I'm as as tempting as rook d5 is, I'm not sure it's that strong because of the fact that black has an extra piece. So
Yeah.
if I can trade pieces while I give it back, then I'm still surviving, or even I can have a decent endgame. So that's the tricky part about attacks where we give up material, that the defender always has the option of giving back all or some of the material just to simplify the position. So
Okay.
careful about that. We cannot just win back the piece. We still need to make sure that the king
Sure.
will be in trouble. I think for that reason, rook f7 is stronger, even if it
Okay.
doesn't win the piece back directly. And interestingly, if we change the move order, that might be even stronger. But that's just like an additional layer of like, oh, in the other line, after the check and rook f7, black's most decent move was the king going to b8. So if you start with rook f7, then the king is not hiding. You're threatening rook
Yep.
d1
Yep.
check
Yep.
and
I
taking on
agree.
c5.
Yeah, that makes
So
perfect sense.
but the other move order too is really strong. The check and rook f7. Well done. Well done. This was all bishop e7, knight takes f7, which didn't happen in the game, but could have happened, right?
So Tal played f5 then?
Um, it didn't happen simply because bishop e7 wasn't played.
Ah,
So Simagin played h6. But well, after seeing g6 and bishop e7 as alternatives, I think we know the answer here.
yeah, this immediate knight f7, right? And then f5.
Yes.
And
Probably
that's,
without thinking. Like, that's just such a natural move for Tal. I don't think it required much of actual calculation here.
yeah,
And f5.
f5. And ouch.
It's a big ouch, and we are on move 13. Black tried, of course, so black takes on e5. It's similar to some of the lines we have seen before.
Okay, and the question here is, ooh, okay. Well, we take on e6, king e6, queen g4, and it's so takes, check. Where is the king going? Goes to e7. Um, there is a bishop a3. Honestly, in this position, we can be, cool and just play king h1. Again, actually, that may not be a bad move just here.
So in which position? Here?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't take on d4 because this is mate. Queen e6 is mate.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't really have the limitations of, we have got rid of that pin forever. And then bishop a3 is at some point going to be a crushing move.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so if you're asking me what, honestly, king h1 is we don't need to force the position.
Mm-hmm.
So this makes perfect sense.
Okay, I'm gonna try to survive. That's why
Okay,
I'm here, to try to give you
sure.
problems and lines to consider. I'm gonna take this one because you are threatening to capture anyway.
Hey Vlad, thank you for joining us. This is a game between Mikhail Tal and Vladimir Simagin, and Simagin is hanging on for dear life. And I had the pleasure of challenging my own Mikhail Tal. It doesn't happen very often.
You always do that in your games, though.
Thanks. Geez. So what? Okay. Yeah. So what can we do? We can play Queen C4 to prevent any attempt to escape to G8. We can take on F5. We can even take on E5, threatening E6, which may actually be the best move. If you're asking me what I'm playing this position, this might be too forcing. I mean, that pawn is not gonna run away. This looks like a natural move. And then wherever the black king goes, there is a follow-up check, either by the bishop or there. This was played in the game, right?
H6, yes, knight takes, F7, king takes, and then this line with F5, D takes, E5 also happened. King H1 is your move.
Oh, okay. All right. So,
but
well,
it
you
could
know
still
what?
be a good one. Let's see.
Since I played it, I'm gonna play this.
Okay. Fair enough.
Hey, Vlad. Thank you for the thank you for the subscription, and hope you're right, my dear friend. Thank you. Okay, so what?
I'm trying to see if you have. Well, you have a very clear immediate threat that is E6. So I'm considering options with which I can prevent that fork. One would be to start running with the king. Just hide it if I can on G8. I'm gonna chance my luck with that. But I was also thinking whether moves like a rook E8 or C5 so that I'm covering the E6 square. But I'm gonna try king G8 first. That steps
Okay.
out of rook takes F5 check too.
Okay. All right. So I can. So what I can do is I can just take on F5, and then I'm threatening Queen C4. I can, because this, I don't want to allow your knight to get to an F6, so this pawn is actually quite useful where it is. No worries, my friend. I can relate there. All right, so Vlad. Well, let me just. Can I take? Hey, Anna Maya, thank you for the huge raid for a party of 77.
Thank you so much, Anna Maya. I'm
Thanks.
looking forward to the match on Sunday,
Yes.
Anna Maya versus Nikola. And I heard Anna Maya that you have a new emote about the
Yes.
adoption, which is an adorable baby Nikola.
Yes.
Adorable, but I said to Nikola, he's my student, and I'm gonna put my money on Nikola not being adopted on Sunday. I've got to.
Okay.
Nikola with the emotes too in the chat. I like that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Screws. Thank you for player chess. And hi, I just wanted to. This for the Anamaya Raiders. Thank you for joining us. This is a weekly show on my channel with one and only the great international master Rudolf. It's called Nikola's Chess. which really is Nicholas being tortured by Anna, and Anna is torturing both me and the chat.
Yeah.
We have a very nice game between the one and only Mikhail Tal versus Vladimir Simagin, in which Simagin allowed himself to be played into a rather unpleasant and appealing position in here. So, all right, so what am I doing here? Actually, this king is perfectly fine where it is. I'm just strengthening my position and I'm going to play this.
Mm-hmm. All right. Rook takes f5. I don't see any immediate threats.
Yeah.
If queen c4 check, I can play king h7. If e6, I can place the knight on f6. So I'm gonna now think that I have a bit of a moment to improve my pieces. The one thing I I would consider important for black is to do something about the queen, because it's as a square for the queen, the b6 square is not bad in general, but right now that queen is not helping at all in terms of making my king feel safer. So I would try to bring that queen back into the game. I'm considering whether moves like queen to b5 to threaten to trade queens if that gives me a tempo, or queen to c5 to bring the queen back toward the fifth rank. One of these moves I think would be my main choice. Um, am I stepping into anything if I play a move like queen b5?
Okay. So, looking back, I kind of obviously I'm not exchanging queens. Um, I can candidate moves is I can just play something like c4 and asking you
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing with that with the queen.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's option number one. And thank you Derivation for the follow. Thank you Malix for the follow, and thank you GMO Hasm 2002 for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you. And thank you again, Anna Maya, for the nice raid. And thank you by Fan Bangold for the follow. I'm looking, hope your Anna Maya's Valorant session was very good. So actually looks like Valorant is becoming a very popular game with chess streamers. One of these days I may start playing it. So looking looking forward to it. All right, so obviously the natural move here is to play c4.
Yes. And
Yes.
that's a fair point, because you're preventing my offer of trading queens. And if I want to stick to the idea of I need my queen back closer to the king, then on that note, I also probably then should stick to queen c5 immediately. So if we compare minor details like this,
Mm-hmm.
queen b5 to force c4 in a way, so to say, because white obviously doesn't want to trade queens, then queen c5. But I do consider that the pawn on c4 should be beneficial for white, because it does take control of some important squares, and also in case your bishop could appear on the diagonal, on the long diagonal later, may not be that much of a deal, may not be a,
Yeah.
a deal at all. But I'm just guessing that perhaps more accurate could be the queen on c5. But I played queen b5 first. I'm gonna stick to this one and see if you can give checkmate to my king on g8.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, thank you, Scroozy, for the five sub gifted sub. That's very greatly
Whoa.
appreciated. And the yes, Vlad Sepper is a dear friend of mine, and he's a mod here. And yeah, Anna Maya is that sounds like what Anna Maya is doing. So that's cool. Um, all right. So what do I do here? Um, so this is a question of how to maintain the initiative.
Well, you're a piece down, so I'm hoping that if I don't get mated, I'm gonna win the game.
All right, so what I can do here is I can play queen h5, ask you the question what to do with this, and threaten e6. I can also play a4. Oh, hey, a huge shout out to my dear friend, International Master Mark Esserman. Thank you for the gifted sub to Fan Bangold, and thank you for coming in. It's always good to see you here, Mark. Hope your tennis session is doing well. Thank you. I can play h4 and play bishop a3. I kind of like that option because I kind of don't want to allow this queen to come back to here. And let's see. I can also, yeah, this queen of e7 is going to be mightily annoying if it shows up. All right, so let me be patient and play a4 first. And then, I don't see any immediately liberating moves for Anna here, for the black. So I have a threat of this. I have a threat to bring this bishop here, and there is some potential of checkmate on f8. I also have a threat of going here and going to f7. And yeah, so yeah, I like a4.
Okay, since you're threatening bishop a3, and I just want to bring the queen back somewhere near the king, I think I should still go queen e7 and then place the queen on e6 in case of bishop a3.
Okay. So what do I do here? All right. Yeah, you're starting to slip from the grasp here. That's the obvious problem with positions like these. Okay. Thanks. All right.
So you think that it might have slipped already, or you would still have faith in this position for white?
I'm pretty sure I'm still in pretty good shape in this position. It's just, all right, so let's play something like this. And I'm actually just going to, so let's play this first, and then play bishop a3. And,
all right,
depending on where you go.
I don't have many options, I'm afraid. So actually, so you're threatening bishop a3, and then
I'm also
claim
threatening. Yeah, I'm also threatening rook f7.
True. Now that's a bigger threat. But I'm just thinking I do have now the time to bring the rook in, because the knight is not hanging just yet, and if I can attack e6, then in case of rook f7, at least I have a move, a counter move.
Correct. But okay, so I may have allowed you to slip through the noose.
Hopefully, I'm trying to survive here.
Okay, so I'm now that pawn on e6 is a little bit pickled. Okay, what can I play here? Okay, so that e6 might have been premature. All right.
Where would you go back in your line if you were to consider whether there was a more straightforward, a more forcing line?
Yeah, let me think for a second.
Sure. You can go back to any point of the line.
Hey, Active. It's very good to see you, Active Persian. A huge shout out to Active Persian, who is a dear friend and a streamer. and one of the Mark Asserman's channels standouts and regulars. It's good to see you. I think instead, if I were to replay this, I think let me look here. Yeah, I managed to let you slip from this position.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what I can play, I can. Let me see if I'm still. The problem I have was that when I was looking at this, I was hoping to play something along line this and let you take on e6 and then play queen g4.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that line is that I'm going to get myself mated on e1, which I didn't see immediately.
Yeah, there can be slight issues also with the white king at the point in the game. Yes, back rank.
Yeah. So what I want to do here is, let me see here. I think this is still good. I think something along that my original plan here was to maybe play something like this.
Okay, and if the king goes to h7?
Which is the only one move, then I can take on here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have, the plan is to play rook e4, and then I'm threatening a mate.
Queen e4 to threaten the discovered
on f8,
check.
which is
I get
ugly.
it. So once again, my thinking would be that I need the queen back as soon as possible, and I would try to trade queens and bring my queen to d5, hopefully.
Yeah, the thing here is there is an option that okay, so I can play I can play, if that's the move, I can play this.
Yes, and if I play queen d5, you have e6.
e6.
That's important. Plus, the rook can come back to f1, so I don't have back rank mate, unfortunately.
Correct. And then I even have a threat of taking bishop on h6.
Yeah. No, this looks really scary. So I need to see. So queen d5 is bad because of e6. You're threatening the knight. Anyway, can I take the pawn?
Yeah, you can, but then all right, what do I do here? Well, I can play bishop f4. I can actually, here is what I kind of like in this position, and that's just thinking loud.
Mm-hmm.
I can play c4 and then bishop b2.
But if c4, I do have the time to trade queens.
True. So I can't do that. Okay. So let's work. You're basically, come on. That would be nice if bishop could do that, but it can't. So your threat is to basically play bishop c4, queen c4.
I just want to find a way in which I can get rid of the queen. So now
Yeah, now I've just discovered myself thinking, neglecting the fact that knight on e5 is...
I was assuming you will move the queen, so I was thinking you.
Yeah, I was thinking of playing this, but that would be a very nice Bottas gambit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I really cannot. So I can play this. I almost have to play this.
Yeah. Um, and now this is where I either will have to find a smart moment to give the piece back while I develop my pieces, or I will for now just claim I can develop my pieces while threatening back rank mate, because you cannot take twice on e5. Queen takes or rook takes both will lead to mate on the back rank.
Okay. Okay, so what I can do is I can decide to move this bishop somewhere.
Yeah.
And okay, I can play this. I can play this. And the natural thing is I can get my piece back, but it's open to the debate whether taking the piece back is it's probably going to end up being a draw. Okay,
Yeah.
so
where do you think it went wrong? Because it started that as a very promising attack.
all right, so let's go back. All right, so I think this line, everything's fine here.
Mm-hmm.
This may be a little bit slow. It's giving a tempo to black.
Mm-hmm.
What we can do instead of maybe play something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then consider check on g5, and all right, so let's play instead of king h1, which is basically what we were starting. We can play this.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
meow! Thank you for the follow. That's very greatly appreciated. All right. And then where do you go here? You play this, and then I can probably play this.
Yeah, that looks scary.
And then you can place
king d8.
king d8.
Trying to hide it then on c7.
And then I do this, and that looks
Ooh.
that looks better. Yeah.
Okay, this is a bit more forcing, I guess, than the lines we were looking at earlier. Seems to be
Yeah.
really straightforward. Although, wait a second, I almost let myself be driven away by the fact that this looks scary, very scary for black. But the bishop on a3, I can take, so I'm gonna try my
Okay,
luck.
I can also. I mean, that was a little bit too casual from my part, but I'm gonna take this, and then
Yeah.
I have. Yeah, I can also give a check on g5. All right.
On a check on.
I think instead of being too casual with my bishop and this, right? What we can do here is, yeah, well, that's the difference between Talia and a regular player. Talia wouldn't have this problem, right? Okay.
But I think you're right with your queen h5 check. Simply, we may have to consider other alternatives as well, because the king on e7 is blocking the pieces of black. So bishop a3 check may not be the strong. Oh, you meant bishop g5 here. I see.
Yeah.
Bishop g5, and you would want to get the rook for two minor pieces, since black is already a piece up. So h takes.
I actually don't want to do that. I'm going to take here.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Two-piece sacrifice at this stage.
And then actually,
But I can block because you cannot take on e5.
Yeah, that doesn't work. So okay. I mean, I can take the rook, and and keep the attack going.
Mm-hmm.
What I can also do, I can play this, but then you go back to f6 and I don't have anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is where it gets tricky because it's how to bring more things to bear. This is the type of thing that a tile or an engine would find the move
Yes.
instantaneously.
Yeah. But I was just saying that if the bishop checks don't work, 'cause those are very straightforward and they should be calculated, of course. But even if they don't work, the king on e7 is very poor in terms of not allowing black to finish
Yeah,
development. So you probably have the time to play something else because black cannot develop the bishop yet and cannot connect the rooks. Plus the
yeah,
king is poor on e7. And also, you always have moves like this just to open up the f file. So f takes e6 can always be included, and that just tears open the whole position,
yeah,
exposing the black king.
yeah.
So I think all those are great. Queen h5 check. I'm just gonna go back to the game because I think yeah, Queen h5 wasn't played, but is the strongest move. So
Okay, good.
Queen h5 check is the strongest, and I think that then it just follows up with capturing on e6, simply just to open up the f file
Okay,
and claim that black is gonna be in trouble. Um, Tal took on e6 immediately, which is obviously really strong too. So these are two very forceful ways of continuing after giving up the knight. So we are still looking at this piece sacrifice, which happened in the game. Knight takes, king takes, f5,
okay,
and after d takes, queen h5 is considered the best by the engine. The
uh,
other option, the other forceful one is f takes e6. This is what Tal played.
okay.
So black has to take back, obviously, because the knight was hanging. What do we do now?
Good question. Well, we have two queen checks that are both very strong moves. One is on g4, another is on c4,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have an option to play king h1 again.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You really like king h1, I feel like.
and we can even play bishop e3,
Yes.
which is a fairly straightforward move.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and actually, this is better for white than the alternatives we considered. Um, I would probably, honestly, since this bishop on e3 with the queen on e2 is defended, I would just play it.
Bishop e3.
Bishop e3, yes.
Yeah, I think that's such a logical move. Develops the bishop,
Mm-hmm.
creates very straightforward and winning threats of just like picking up the queen on b6 with d5. Connects the rooks. It just got to be a great move. Wasn't played in the game, but once again, I think it's one of the top moves, if not the very best for white here because of the multiple threats it creates, and just you just bring another piece into the game by creating this major threat. Black would have to move the queen away from the diagonal or the king away from the check. I would insist on trying to somehow bring the queen back, and if queen c4 check, at least I can cover up with queen d5.
Yeah,
But as you said, the queen can give checks from the other diagonal too, and even a position like this where it looks like there's nothing immediate, but there's a pin through the fifth rank, the bishop can't be developed, the rooks cannot be connected. And you probably have the time to bring the other rook to e1 and attack the
yeah.
knight on
No,
e4.
this is quite ugly. It
Yeah,
looks like curtains very quickly. So
yeah,
okay,
yeah, it is. Instead of bishop e3, which I really think is very strong, Tal played a move you mentioned in a different position, and it's interesting. It's interesting how you found the same tactical motif in another line.
Okay.
I wonder if you would come up with that here too. What do you think could be a tall move here?
What would be a tile move here?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me guess. Rook b1.
Yes.
Okay.
What's the point of rugby one?
Well, to get rid of the pin and
Hmm.
to deflect the queen, play queen g4, king needs to go to a dark square, and
Yeah.
we would capture the discovered check with a bishop and then you can collect the queen.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah.
Great job. Rugby one. So it looks like it's a full rook sacrifice, and we have already given up a knight earlier. But yeah, as you said, if black takes the rook, which it did happen in the game. So let's see now which one is the most promising line for white to get the queen and continue the attack.
Okay, so the best way to get the queen is probably to play queen c4 because it forces black to a dark square.
Hmm.
Is it better than queen g4? It's a good question.
Good question.
If you play queen g4, there it's we cannot. All right, so queen g4, and they're basically, yeah, because you have queen d5, which is actually ugly. So if you play queen c4, you don't have queen d5.
Hmm.
Yeah, so queen c4 looks like a better move.
Yeah.
Is that
So
what?
the king has to go. Yeah, that's what Tal played. The king had to go back to e7. No, sorry, d6. King to d6 was played in
No,
the
okay,
game.
sorry.
Yeah, actually makes sense that it goes to d6 so that after bishop a3, at least it tries to hide on c7. But the
Okay.
queen is gone. Bishop a3, king c7, and the queen is being picked up. Um, the only issue is that this bishop will be taken too. So material-wise, black has a rook and two minor pieces for the queen, which should be more than enough compensation.
Sure.
But white still has the initiative, and we need to make sure we keep going with that initiative.
Yeah, and what do you do after queen b3?
Good question.
Yeah,
Really good question.
where is that bishop going? And then take on b7, and you know, um, yeah,
Queen b3 was played in the game, very well spotted, a double attack with the bishop and pawn hanging.
yep,
Um, Bishop e7 was played, queen takes b7,
b7, yeah.
king d6. How do you continue here?
Okay, so this is actually becoming a little bit interesting. Um, okay, so I could take on e5 and then give a check on d1.
Yeah.
Um, at which point I'm probably gonna grab one of these pieces fairly quickly. I can even do rook d1, but then e4 is a threat. So I probably, hey, Daster42, thank you for the follow. So I'm probably gonna take first,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Black
what?
has to play knight takes, most likely.
Knight takes,
And it's the game. It is what happened exactly. Knight takes e5.
and where are you going here? Okay. Mm. Well, I already let you get away with this, so I don't want to let Simagin get away with this again. We can
Mm-hmm.
play this.
All right. Uh, After queen b3 check, which happened in the game, black played king to f5.
Okay, and the natural move is this,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Yeah,
I presume this is what Tao played. It's a natural move.
it is what Tal played indeed. So if the king goes to g6, which didn't happen in the game, but let's see what would be the issue here for
Yeah,
black.
Queen e6 immediately wins the piece.
So queen e6, both are hanging. I can still play bishop f6.
Okay. All right. So. All right. So what can I do here? I can play this and then take the knight.
True, because king f7 steps into the pin on the
Yeah.
f5, queen takes e5. Very good. So instead of this, Simagin tried to run toward the center,
E4.
king e4. I'm just gonna promote all this because it is the game.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
this is okay. All right. So I can play queen a4 and see what happens. There is only one move then, right? Which is
Yeah.
queen d5 and then queen d4. And then on queen e6. Okay, so that's all right. So that's option number one. Option number two is I can actually could play rook e1. You know, I think this is probably a nice move.
Mm-hmm.
And there is only one legal move, right? And I mean, upper to knight c4. It's this, correct?
Yeah, king e3 would have been mate in 3. So king d5.
Okay. Let me think for a second.
Sure.
Well, I was planning on playing this, right?
And if king e6?
King e6. Um, all right. Okay, I can play rook e1 and then bishop on one of the fields. That pawn on c6 is surprisingly annoying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see an immediate capture or mate, surprisingly enough.
Yeah, it's not that simple. There's no straightforward line that wins the material back here. Interestingly, if this queen a4 check seems very logical,
But
but
it's
we
not.
yeah, and when I analyzed it with the engine, it basically then just wants to come back to the same position to here have another shot at
Okay.
trying. Um, the funny
Okay.
thing is here there's only a queen and the rook, but Tal manages to find a way in which he can add another attacking piece to the squad. So queen and rook, we tried before the checks too. The king always just finds a way to sneak out. There's always one or two squares available still, and the pieces will be defending each other if we just play queen e6. So how to find a way in which you can, through checks, add yet another piece to the attack.
Well, I mean, obviously, king is too far. So what we can do here is, um, okay, we can do this, and then there is only one move, right? I mean,
Yeah, so king goes back to f5. The question is, how do we... Well done! That's the move! That is the move, and that's what Tal played in the game. Rook e1 check to force the king back to f5, but now instead of repeating the rook check, g4. Very good.
okay,
And
and
now this is gonna be curtains. Let's see some of the options.
well, where does the king go?
Good
Um,
question. So it cannot be taken with the knight because the bishop on e7 is hanging, can't be taken with the king because the knight on e5 is hanging. Therefore, the king has to stay protecting those pieces. Let's say king f6.
okay, so we can take king f6, and then okay, what do we do here? We can give the check here, and then it's either check on e6 or check on f5 if you go to g5, and we're grabbing one of these pieces, and the queen king, and this is curtains.
Yeah, so let's see.
Wow.
We are saying king g6, queen e6. If bishop f6,
We had this motive before, queen
yes,
this.
very good. Same thing. And well, therefore, after queen e6, it doesn't really matter what black does. The knight will be taken. King h7 was played in the game, and well, you can choose between the two options. Which one? Tal took on e5, and after rook h e8, rook f7, uh,
Yeah,
bishop
this is
f8. I'm just gonna play out the final
yeah.
moves to show that this is, of course, already the easy part of the game. Although there's no mate immediately, so Tal just played king to f2 to take control of the e file.
Okay.
you know, calm move. But the difficult part was getting to this position, not how to convert this one, but the earlier stage. And I thought, even though this looks like this, there has to be a win here for white. At least there has to be a
It's
way in which you pick up a minor piece.
yeah, but the g4 is not g g4 motive is not immediately obvious. Okay, well, live and learn. That's why we were doing this, Anna. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What were some of the most instructive moments, in your opinion, in this game, Nikola?
Okay, let me go back. I'm actually going to start from the beginning. Just bear with me, guys and Anna. I the opening is way too passive for black, to be frank
Yes.
with you. It's really tempting fate.
Yeah, black was versed in about 11 moves, so that is an opening disaster.
Yeah, knight f7 is a natural Tal move. It's so that's knight f7 motive plus f5 is very strong. Rook b1 is a very nice move. It's fairly typical for this.
Yeah.
Queen c4, and you know, for an attacker of Tal's style, this is right up his alley. You know, it's for him to find a weak win here is just a matter of, I don't want to say technique, but just a matter of time. And I think this is actually the line that was played. Yeah, it's a nice game, very nice choice. I
I'm glad you
have
enjoyed it, but I do
I
have more games for you. No, I don't think
okay.
the session is over.
No, I don't. I have two great stories about tile that I just want to share
Definitely,
with
please.
everybody and you. Um, I was 11 years old when Korchnoi and Spassky played their candidates' final match in 1978
Mm-hmm.
in in Belgrade, and I actually did watch them. And Tal was actually came to report on the match very quickly. He was ill, and at that particular time, Korchnoi and Spassky were, or on more than one occasion, Korchnoi and Spassky were not exactly friends. But Tal ended up being passed out drunk, which happened to him rather regularly, unfortunately, and nobody was there to help Tal go to this room. So
Oh,
Korchnoi and Spassky, who, as I said, didn't like, they joined forces and carried Tal to his room because that was the right thing to do. And when it
yeah.
came to Tal, even Korchnoi and Spassky, were willing to set aside their differences and help Tal. So it's the type of person Mikhail Tal was. So
I
and
I haven't heard the story, and I'm really sorry about the part of the effect of alcohol in on his life and career in general. But it has this wholesome bit in it where two enemies, so to say,
yes,
team up to help him. So that is a really positive part of the
sure.
story, which I haven't heard of. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, so that's two snippets, and I have a few other snippets to share. Hey, Tommy Shelby, thank you for the follow, my friend. It's very good to see you here. So thank you so much. So very good. So this was a beautiful game. Thank you. And I also have a big fondness for Vladimir Simagin, who was never one of the top Russian grandmasters, but he always had very original ideas in openings and games and so
Hmm.
on. And
Yes, true.
he also passed on fairly young, and I think he was in his early 40s.
Mm.
So, you know, uh, it's nice choice, Anna. Though
I'm
what
glad you liked it.
So what was he doing? Playing that opening against style? That was tempting fate.
Definitely tempting
Okay.
fate. Um, I have two more games. I chose three in total to be safe, but I thought two are more objective, and that's why I said it at the beginning of the stream that I think we'll look at two if we are fast three. But between the two games that are left, do you have a preference? I'm just worried you may know the Botvinnik game since it's from the World Championship match.
Uh, we can save Botvinnik for later. I would love to see Geller game, and I,
Sure.
I actually have a Geller story.
Yeah. I'm gonna play at the opening moves because we will not take
Yeah,
care of the opening.
that's fine.
So I'm gonna be listening to your Geller story in the meantime.
So there was a time in the 1950s when there was some tournament somewhere, I can't remember the details, but basically there were four Argentinian players that decided to play the same dubious variation against four Russian grandmasters.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah.
and the the way they were lined up was that they were Keres was sitting up front, so it was Keres, Geller, Spassky, and Petrosyan was also playing, but he was playing against Guimard, so it was a different opening, so
Mm.
they didn't play the same variation. So
Mm.
three Argentinian grandmasters and three Soviet grandmasters were basically playing the same position.
Yes.
And the joke was, since Keres was in front of everybody, was that everybody was waiting to see what Keres is going to play and then just following his steps.
Yeah.
And what and what people forgot was that this was a very aggressive position. That the person who first found out the variation was Keres. Was not Keres, was Geller. And Geller was basically sitting behind the backs of Keres and Spassky, so they really couldn't see the variation. But just at the last moment, apparently Keres just sneak a peek behind and can play the right move. And Spassky, who was always a smart player, basically waited to see what gonna happen, and it was 3-0 for the Russians against the Argentinians. Anyway, so
No, that's a nice one. I heard of the mirror games, but I
yeah,
didn't remember that it was also Geller and the rest of the
yeah.
players you mentioned.
Geller was probably one of the strongest players and the most amazing attacker never to be world champion in my book. So anyway, he was a perennial candidate for world champion. In many ways, he could give Tal the run for his money, and Geller has a positive score against Bobby Fischer. So that's a very, very good record. So anyway, so I presume, okay, so this looked like a normal Ryu Lopez.
Yes, a very theoretical line, so I thought that we
Okay,
will not go into
sure.
details, but this middle game is already, it deserves attention, of course, but even these moves are nowadays almost kind of theory. I'm not an expert on these lines, but all those pawn pushes are thematic. The
Okay,
question comes from here, so we're gonna pick it up from this moment of the middle game.
okay.
Just what would be your candidate moves here? It is white to move after having played those. So d5, e takes d5, e takes d4. What would be the moves you're looking at in this position as white?
Okay. This is a type of position that I can probably play against Chiu, because this is something that she loves playing. And for the record, guys, if you're playing against Chiu, don't contest regular Lou Lopez against her. You're going to be dead very quickly because she knows those lines. All right, so what are the candidate moves? I think I played this line against Julian Landau once and ended up losing that game rather quickly because I wasn't patient enough to do the usual plot. All right, so I have this pawn on b4 that's under attack. I can take on d4. I probably don't want to take on c4, though I can take on c4 and then take on d4, which is not the worst of moves, though I don't want to sacrifice that pawn on b4. This is probably overall a better position for white, but white needs to be very careful here.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. All right, so what are the candidate moves? I probably, I need to take care of this pawn. So if candidate move here is to take, but then black intercept this move? No, I can also play a3. And then the standard plan for white in this is to play knight f1 and then g3, f5, and so on. This might be too slow. This is a pretty sharp position. I can also say I don't care about this pawn and just play this. Hey, HS Force, thank you for the raiding with a party of 8. Thank you so much. And yes, Pascal 0079, the Kasparov and Karpov played this reasonably common, but and also Karpov and Korchnoi contested Euro Lopez, but it was open Euro Lopez plenty of times. So Anna, you're asking me what am I playing here as white?
Yes.
And this is style playing.
Yes. Doesn't mean you have to go rook takes e7. This is just the starting position, okay?
Yeah, I think rook e7 is actually a legitimate candidate move. I'm, you know, and Geller is black.
Yes.
Somehow I doubt that Tal played a3 in this position.
He may not have played a3 in this position. He may not have.
Okay.
I was just thinking of starting with this, even if there's no like amazing move here. There's gonna be just a series of normal looking moves, natural moves. But I think it's good to start thinking here because it does address some of the key points and how black can also threaten a couple of things. And you were saying that white needs to be careful. There are issues like if knight takes d4, queen takes d5, that long diagonal queen bishop battery, the knight hanging,
Yeah.
the knight on c4 is well placed. So there are a couple of things to consider.
Yeah. I mean, and getting this pawn to a4 is a common move in these positions, but that's a positional move that white may not have trouble. And I certainly don't want to play, a4 queen d5 is probably ugly. So that needs to be contested. Um, okay. To be very frank with you, Hannah, rook e7 is legitimate move to just deflect the queen from taking on d5 and then taking on c4 and d4. It's actually not the worst of candidate moves. The question here is what's its advantage over just taking on c4, immediately, and so forth. It's a very double-edged position.
It is.
All right, so
What would be your move if you were to continue here? I know it's complex, but just like you need to make a move in a bullet game kind of attitude.
okay. Truth be told, even if we take on e7, white can allow. We're still gonna probably lose that pawn on d5, but then we have bishop b2. And then we can play knight, which basically prevents white from taking. Or
So
okay,
do you want to play out those moves, the line that you are considering now?
okay. Let me do this. Okay. I'm just
Yeah, taking a look at this, whether it's an alternative.
can white, no, this loses the pawn. Okay, so I'm not sure I want that I have enough for the exchange, to be frank, Anna.
Yes.
So let's not go there.
Okay. But it's good to look at those as options in case.
So the option number 2 is this, right?
Yeah. Very good. So we trade the knight first in order to take on d4 with the queen, which does prevent black from the option of queen takes d5 in the sense where the knight on d4 was hanging. So black could still, if black wants to, take
this
the pawn.
bishop is gonna fall if he takes on d5. So
Yes, correct. I couldn't trick you into believing that you have to take on d5 and knight takes d5.
Correct. So
I tried.
thank you.
No, it's true. There's no queen takes d5, the bishop on e7 is hanging, so if black cannot take on d5 with the queen, then the other alternatives are knight takes d5 or bishop takes d5. Um, I think both are playable, knight takes d5 and bishop takes d5. But Geller played something else, which also seems critical. Bishop takes b4 because the
Yes.
rook on e1 is hanging, and the pawn on d5 is still in the air. So it looks like black is taking the initiative here. Black is going to have the advantage if we just start making passive moves. So what do you think Tal did after bishop takes b4?
Okay, so okay, so I don't think Tal would move. Tal would play is gonna play something weird. Um, the pawn on d6 is being still under attack.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can. Well, can we defend it? Actively. Active defense here would mean playing something like bishop b2 or bishop g5.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Bishop b2 basically prevents white with taking with the. Actually, both moves stop black from taking the pawn on d5.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay. I slightly prefer bishop g5.
Why so?
Because it's immediately threatening this knight, and if it takes on d5, we take the knight and then we take the bishop.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
this is a very legitimate candidate move. Actually, that smells to me like something that Tal would play.
You're smelling it very well. He wanted to give the rook up because he's not willing to waste time on moving it.
Yeah, so that's an
Yeah.
option.
I think
Uh,
bishop g5 is probably one of the best options. He gave up the exchange in a different way, but bishop g5, when I took a look at the evaluation of the engine, bishop g5
mhm.
0 0 0. So considering that white is losing an exchange in this line, I think that's a very good evaluation for white. If this position is considered 0 0 0 by the engine, it means that there's enough compensation for the material. And in the game between two humans, white has the upper hand because
Yes.
you have the initiative, and it's black who has to play the most precise moves to keep the position balanced and equal. So 0 0 0 for the engine is a very good sign here for white.
So that's, and I presume that's not what Tal played, right?
No, but he wanted to give up the exchange. He did it with a different move, rook to b1.
Yeah, which is what Pascal 0079 actually mentioned, which is
Yes.
okay.
So the idea being that he wants this other bishop,
Okay.
and this is the game. Rook takes b7, rook e8, black protects the bishop.
Okay, that sounds like a Talar Geller move.
What do you think would be a way to continue here as
Bishop. We
white
need to we
after
need to
rook e8?
defend this pawn on d5. So let's play bishop g5.
Bishop g5 is an option. And what else?
Okay, there's this. There's also bishop b2, but that's, I think, not the most precise option. We can also move the knight to g5 at threaten f7,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all I mean, Knight e5. No. I mean, there is this queen d5 threat.
Yeah. Bishop g5. Let's calculate that. So obviously knight cannot take on d5. What about queen takes d5 if bishop g5?
I take on f6 and I'm up a piece.
Okay, let's double check.
Okay, so
Because I also thought first that that's the end of the story.
it's not.
I don't know.
Oh, bishop. Oh yeah, the rook is hanging.
Yes, that's an issue.
Yeah, okay, that's a small oversight on my part. So we can't really play that, but we can play knight g5 and ask the question, how do you defend this?
Yeah. Would you consider trading the d pawn for the f pawn? For instance, if knight g5, queen takes d5. If you have to trade queens.
Yeah, that's a $64,000 question in this position. Right. Anya Christ is saying, why not bishop a4?
That's also an option.
That's an option.
We were just considering how to deal with the hanging pawn on d5 because after all, it's likely you will need to do something about it.
Yeah, bishop g5 is a nice move because to get this bishop out of the way. We probably don't want to take on e1.
Yeah, that's likely to be the case.
No, because we're going to lose the bishop on c1.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not in our favor to exchange the c pawn for the d pawn, but exchanging the d pawn for the f pawn and while maintaining attack might actually be beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see the way to effectively defend the d5 pawn. Actually, I can always push d6.
Oh, so that is a way.
That may actually work.
D6, yes. As simple as it is, it's also easy to not consider it firsthand because we want to develop the bishop. We want to develop all the pieces, and especially this dark square bishop sitting on c1. So bishop g5, bishop b2 are all very logical to look at. But if you just want to think of how to keep the pawn guarded, pushing a pass pawn makes perfect sense. So d6 is the right move. It was played in the game, and after queen c8, we gotta think again what to do here.
Okay, we can play rook c7, which would be like an instantaneous bullet game.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's the best move. It's kind of a natural move. We obviously need... I don't see what else to do with the rook, to be quite frank with you, Anna.
Yep, fair point. But this is a moment actually where I need to tell you that either we are looking at just a typical tall genius moment that sometimes, well, many times it was brilliant and engines improve, and other times, very few times, the engines would not agree. So it's either gonna be that case here, or that the game is saved with the wrong move order. Because I'm gonna show you what, according to ChessBase, was played in the game here. Like
Okay.
rook c7 is the obvious move, and it happens in the game a move later. So this could be an error in how the game was input. But the move order, according to ChessBase, is this, allowing the capture. But black didn't take it. Black plays rook e2, and then rook c7, queen e6. So the question is, was rook c7 played first? No, but it cannot be because the rook is on e2. no, this is the game. Like we are looking at the game. But I was like, um, okay, I'm guessing he didn't want to take because if bishop takes, pawn takes, queen g4, um, white is a white is a rook and an exchange down. But this, I do believe, will lead to mate.
Okay.
But let's calculate.
That's okay. So let me. This is actually relatively easy. Where do you move the king? If you move the king here, this is probably curtains, right?
It is mate on g8.
And if you get the king here, this is curtains.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So from that point of view, I do understand why Geller would not want to take the rook. Um, Trouble is with this line is that g takes f6 is
Not
not obligatory.
no. So in this position, that's like the black is an exchange up, right? So or two exchanges
Two
up.
exchanges up, yes. What do you
Okay.
think of this position? Would you have faith in this as white?
Yeah, only those two can produce something like this. And I'm black to move. Okay, so what is the best move for black in here? It's okay, so why don't I play something like I'm just being annoying?
Mm-hmm.
Play this.
It
Right.
makes perfect sense that you want to try to trade queens, and on f2 I may have issues. I may have issues on f2 myself.
Yeah.
I think you probably answered why this may not have been one of the brilliancy sacrifices, but yeah, queen a7.
Well, Tal was the one who basically said that there are Tal's combinations and then there are correct combinations.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, yeah. I like queen a7. I guess this is still, I would assume that Tal still would find ways to make this a mess, because if d7, well, first of all, that pass point is really strong. Also, the rook is protecting the e1 bishop, so this still could be tricky if you can keep the material.
okay. All right, that's actually a very good move. What do we do here? Hmm. Okay, so does this defeat queen a7?
I'm not sure because I have two exchanges down, so I'm guessing I get back some of the material, but might not be enough.
All right, so just let's do some brute force here.
Mm-hmm.
Takes, 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 and all right. So okay, do you mind if I just
No, you can play those moves out because this is super complex, so feel free to.
and I don't see that this is winning for white, right?
Yeah, it may not be. Still better than having two exchanges down. So
No, no, no. I agree, and
this
I'm
could have been, yeah, this could have been the game. In any case, Geller uh, didn't take it. We probably there are also other moves. Queen a7 I liked until I saw d7. So maybe if d7 is that strong, black can do something. Well, d7 is a threat in this position. Yeah, maybe even though g takes f6 is obviously a bad move, so that's out. But probably Geller was just considering that here white is threatening all sorts of nasty things on the king's side. These are all under attack, and d7 is a big threat too. So maybe he just thought that this position is bad for black overall.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Yeah, we don't. I mean, we can basically eliminate take on f6 as a move because
Yeah,
after queen
yeah,
g4 there is a mate.
yes. But
Uh,
I would assume that if d7 is one of the biggest threats, then black can consider. I mean, this does give up g7, but
yeah,
he may be able to bring. Sorry.
I was just thinking exactly the same
Hmm.
move.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Rook g6 is not because of the bishop on c2, but in general, to step out of d7 as a tempo, put some pressure on the pawn. Um, and if bishop
Okay.
g7, this is a mess.
Yeah,
This is a mess.
that's an interesting position to say the least.
Yeah.
Hey, Enya, yeah, I mean it is, but uh, it's not an immediately winning for white.
Yeah.
Um, Jesus, okay. You can shave with it. This position is so sharp that you can shave with it.
Yeah. I feel like these are the kind of positions that the engines defend. Like they will find only moves for
Yes.
10, 12 uh, moves in a row, only moves. But if black just makes one mistake, white is giving mate. So
Yeah.
in that sense, I think Geller then did do the right thing by not going for this, because now that we are observing it, I, I I have no idea what's the right defense here for black. And it looks so scary. As you said, it's that sharp. Um, so this didn't happen in the game. He played rook e2 instead. And now after rook c7, queen e8, um, queen e6, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
queen e6. Eventually, Tal took on e1, rook takes, king h2, and the game will surprisingly come to an end very quickly because of a blunder. So as much of a complex mess this has been, the game will finish with a bit of an anticlimax here after rook d8, bishop takes, Geller played g takes f6. I'm not quite sure why, but it's
Okay.
your turn, Nikola, to tell us what's wrong with this move.
Okay. Well, it's okay. What's wrong with this move is. Oh, I wanted to play rook e7, but then I realized that actually it might be playable.
What's the line there?
Okay, so this, 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 and this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a piece.
And
So
that's a piece. Yeah. Is that
why
what?
do you what do you think that Geller missed if this is so simple? What's another line to consider after rook e7?
Okay. I think he was hoping to play this, right? But that's the same.
So
That's the
yeah,
same line. Oh no, duh. Sorry. Right. But I'm still a piece up.
yeah.
Is that what they played?
I was thinking if he was counting on queen takes e7, but that also has a very simple refutation. So
Queen
I'm not
e7.
sure. Maybe
Queen e7
yeah,
here.
it wasn't played, but I was wondering if that's what he calculated initially, or what is it that he missed exactly? Because here after queen takes e7, what would be the line?
Okay. I have a check on g4,
Yes,
and
very
it's
good.
the same mate. That and if this is a check, and if he goes on h8, oh, but he has queen e5, but we can still take,
Yeah.
and then take, and this is curtains.
Yes, very good. Yeah,
Okay.
I actually don't know because, as you said, he was a great attacking player himself, Geller. So it must have been just a momentary blind spot, something he must have seen something that wasn't in the position in terms of this bishop takes f6. I really don't know what is the issue with queen takes because that's the move you would normally want to play. Like you don't voluntarily take with the pawn when the house is on fire. Um, so I really don't know what he saw after queen takes f6, but this never happened in the game. It would be interesting to know because queen takes f6. This is still an absolute mess. The engine says 000, but
Yeah,
we know
sure.
that in human language there's three possible results. This is an imbalanced position with chances for both.
Yep.
But yeah, I agree with those of you guys saying that the brain fog he must have gone through when like playing against Tal. This was a very sharp game. Earlier, all the lines he had to calculate when the rook was just simply in the air. So those all add up in the end for how a player is feeling. That's true. It's just surprising that it finishes with such a big blunder from such an amazingly strong player, especially in attacking positions too. A very strong player.
Yeah, I think it was the Tal mystique that came to tell. In other words, it's very hard to, calculate all of this. So,
Yeah.
okay.
I would have loved to see this, but we will never know. We will never know what would have happened here. But if anyone wants to analyze this as a homework, what would have happened if the rook was eventually taken on b7 and it's two exchanges up for black, but the attack on the king's side, like the bishop cannot be taken. I think we can conclude that that's
Yeah.
untouchable. And d7 is a really big threat. So it does look scary, but it feels like there could be a way to defend if we could defend like engines. But for humans, it may not be an easy task. Of course, I fully understand that. In any case, this was just a middle game that I thought was interesting to look at, just for the fact that it starts with a position where
Just
it
common.
almost feels like, yeah, it's just a typical Rui Lopez
Yep.
middle
Yep.
game, and out of the blue he just gives up an exchange because why waste time on moving the rook away? And you wanted to give it up with bishop g5, which I also think is really strong. This position too would be very interesting to analyze. Um, so very, very interesting points here that after bishop takes b4, whether with rook b1 or with bishop g5, but it kind of makes sense to sacrifice the exchange just to win time and
Yep.
save the d5 pawn.
Yep. And I have to say this whole queen f6, and I think the most brilliant move in this position in this game is actually d6. Not
Yeah,
even
yeah,
you're not even sacrificing the exchange. That's you know
d6 here.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
just
what yeah, that's a brilliant attacking vision, because that's what renders this take on f6 so much strength, because
yeah,
if we move a couple of more moves here, and well, they didn't play this, but the option of taking on f6, queen g4, and obviously I think queen c8 was a very good move, because it basically prevented that whole nastiness on queen g4. And then
Yeah,
queen
true.
f5 or bishop takes on h7.
Hmm.
Nice game.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was a choice that I wasn't that sure of, in a sense that I myself didn't understand half of the lines because I still don't. But I guess that just happens with tile games in general. So we should admire the magic behind these sacrifices
Yes.
and not always need an answer.
Yeah. Pascal0079, this was Stahl versus Geller. And when was it? What year was it?
This was played in 1958 at a championship of the Soviet Union in Riga,
Ah,
and the
okay.
other game we looked at was played uh, also at the Soviet Championship, but 2 years before in
Okay.
1956.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Karen, thank you for the huge raid with a party of 56. Thank you, Karen. That's very greatly appreciated. Um, Karen is, please give a shout out to Karen. And for the raiders, this is a weekly Nikola chess of stream, in which one and only Anna Rudolf basically throws at me all sorts of weird positions. It's basically Nikola's torture session. Thank you, A, for all, and thank you, I'm here for the chess, for the follow. Thank you, Bats, for JM, and again, thank you, Karen, so much for the big raid. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. It's good to see you here. And thank you, ChessCoachNet, for the follow. We watched the games, two tile games. First game was against Vladimir Simagin, and this is a pretty wild game against Yefim Geller. Do you mind if I take a quick look for the game, just for the
Yes, of course.
couple of
Definitely.
and just so everybody's on the same page. I'm very familiar with these lines. This is Norman Yu Lopez. Interesting thing is that Tile actually allowed Marshall, which would be unusual today.
Mm-hmm.
But Geller didn't go there. This is standard Ryu Lopez. These are all very, very typical positions. And I think we started here, which was the question, what is the normal plan? And okay, next time I play in one of those sub Sundays against Q, I may use this as an inspiration.
Yes, definitely. She will, I think, feel quite uncomfortable in a position like that
Yes.
exchange up, but White has the upper hand.
Yeah, and this is, we can call this, this is not, yeah, too bad for the blunder. It was a very, 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 very sharp game. And sacrificing exchange for basically a tempo is
Very well said. It's a tempo.
It's a tempo, yes. And the way he sacrificed this is also genuinely amazing, because I think when we discussed this, there was an option to sacrifice it with bishop g5.
Yes, we looked at bishop g5, and instead he went rook b1. But both are very interesting. Just simply deciding to not move the rook away and go for the initiative.
Yeah. Wow. Impressive. All right. I have to ask, because you had a third game, which is a Botvinnik game.
Yes, which one it was?
Is it the one in which he sacrifices a piece on f4?
No, it's a different one.
Okay, good.
It's a French defense one that I've prepared in the
okay.
from the match. Well, we can either have it at some point later in the future, or
Sure.
Or I can send it along. Depends on if you would like to have that game later in a future session or not.
No, we can keep it in our pocket for a session in the future. I think I would actually like to see this. Botvinnik was a master of French defense, and we can see what old Botvinnik had in store.
Yes, I agree.
Uh, which of these games do you these two games we have seen do you actually prefer, Anna? I'm just curious.
I thought the Simagin game was really good because it's like from start to finish, I felt like it's a masterpiece, and it still had complex issues even after winning the queen. Like all those moves, the knight takes f7, which is it's like you know he's gonna do it, but you still need to calculate then what
Yes.
happens. F5, what queen h5 check? Will you take on e6? Will you not take rook b1 to win the queen? But you get a rook and two minor pieces as black for the queen, so you still need to then be precise with the attack. I really thought that was the kind of game where you can sense the moves he was about to play, but it
Yep.
without the right follow up, it still cannot be. You cannot just um, wing it. You need to calculate and find the most precise way to attack, I thought.
Thank you,
What
AG
did you think?
Egerfall.
What did you think about the two games, Nicola, and your preference?
I have a weakness for Vladimir Simagin because of all his original ideas, and thank you, Sepper, for the redeeming the hydrate option. But I think Keller was in an uncomfortable situation because he needed to defend,
Mm-hmm.
and he is the one who liked initiative as much as Style did. So I think in the end that told in this game. What I'm gonna remember from these games is basically first this option of pawn on d6, and then doubled pawns on f6, and then this queen g4, which is a completely crushing move. Doesn't look
Yes.
crushing, doesn't even look dangerous, but it's just immediate option.
Mm-hmm.
I think Simagin was actually. Can we load up for two more minutes that Simagin game? I just want to take a look at one thing.
Sure. I think it's there, but in one of the sidelines. Do you know which position you wanted to look at roughly?
It's
Because
this one, right? That's what they played. Okay.
it's here, but in the
I
sideline.
just
Yes.
I have a question for you. Um,
Sure.
what was the I mean, what do you think of opening logic here?
Oh,
This
it's a
is
disaster.
okay.
This for black was a disaster, and knowing that it's stop playing with the white pieces and just giving him a free hand at taking the initiative on move 7 with e5.
Okay.
I think that was a bad day for Simagin.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what was their lifetime score, but this was this was a pretty good clinic how not to play against Stahl, I would think. So, oh yeah, Ben Feingold, you're saying Queen B6 was all theory? Yeah.
Probably, but allowing e5 and the rest, it cannot be theory then anymore, because on move 11 basically black was already worse, like
Yeah.
clearly.
Okay. All right. Well, Anna, thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. Thank you everyone from here. Pascal 0079 brought Viktor Korchnoi. Viktor Korchnoi had a good old nickname that he was called Peshkoyed, which means he liked free stuffs. And the way he would play is he would take all given pawns on offer, and then he would defend for hours at a time and win games.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit that in 1978, when he was playing his Baguio match, I was rooting for Korchnoi against Karpov many years ago. And I have a weakness for him, though he had the most combative style of any player I've seen. However, give me a tile game. Thank you, Anna, for that. Give me a game with Galler, and so that was fun. Thank you so much.
I'm
And I
glad you
hope,
enjoyed the games. I'm glad. And next time we'll be back with something even more difficult because this was a reward session. Imagine, imagine if it was a normal one. It's because Nikola had his surgery last Thursday, and I thought
yes.
today should be a more pleasant,
Thank
less
you, Anna.
suffering. Um,
Yeah.
but still, we are still training, of course. And you're gonna do great on Sunday. I'm sure. I will be tuning in to the
Yes.
match.
Oh, thank you, Anna. That's greatly appreciated. Yeah, yours truly is a Robocop. I'm still wearing this monstrosity post elbow surgery. It's actually, it's it's annoying, but what can you do? This is the conclusion of our weekly stream, which Anna and I have a series of streams called Nikola Learns Chess. Uh, it's uh, it's basically is a training exercise for me and a torture exercise for Anna. And my next stream is going to be also a regular stream on Sunday at noon Eastern time. I'm playing an adoption match against Anna Maya Kazarian, who is a very strong player, who is also has already and I'm gonna spam that adopt Nikola emote in my channel. It's a very cute emote. I think it's only slightly premature, but that's perfectly fine. um, Basically, it's a series of streams in which I I offer for a bounty, $250 bounty for very strong streamers and friends to adopt me. I think I was adopted. I was only adopted by Grandmaster Aman Hambleton up to now, but I faced some very strong opposition, and in more than one match, I was lucky to not to get adopted. So that's the next match, and then on Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern, there is a standard. That's a Nicola's my best losses on Mondays. I actually didn't do the last two due to the vagaries of American medical profession, and looking forward to seeing guys later. And let's decide who we want to raid. Let's see who is streaming. Oh, actually, not that many chess streamers are streaming right now. Let's see here. We have. I actually owe. I'm gonna send you guys to. I'm gonna send you to Chessbra because I owe them. I owe them a raid. They were always kind to us. So say hello to Eric Hansen for me. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys very soon. I think he's trying to reach 3,000 for God knows how many times. I'm quite sure he will be able to reach it. So a raid to Chessbra starts out. I'm going to see you guys very soon. And thank you for stopping by.
Thank you so much for being here, and hope to see you next time.
Yeah, thank you. Raid is starting. Bye, guys. Thank you. Okay, so that's done. I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna